Audio Renaissance presents Pearl Harbor by Newt Gingrich and William R. Forstchen.
It has been over 5 years since my co-author, William Forstchen, and I embarked on the exciting experience of writing a series of novels in the field we define as active history. Our 3 New York Times bestselling novels related to the Battle of Gettysburg and its aftermath were an adventure for both of us as we researched the topic, interviewed experts, walked the fields of Pennsylvania and Maryland, and then set about the task of writing over 500,000 words on the topic of whether Lee could have won the Civil War for the Confederacy in 1863. Upon the completion of that series, at the urging of editor and friends, we decided to turn our attention to a more current and immediate what-if of our national epic, December the 7th, 1941. Some have mistakenly referred to our works as alternate histories, but we beg to differ, preferring instead the definition of active history. Alternate history, a fun genre in itself, does not necessarily need to adhere to the rules we have established for ourselves with our own works. Alternate history can play with random chance. For example, Jackson is not shot at Chancellorsville and thus leads the South to victory at Gettysburg. That historical characters do not behave as a lifetime of their experiences demonstrated they would have behaved, such as Hitler suddenly being cautious about invading Russia or declaring war in America, or just simply throw in random events that bear no relationship to the reality of a particular time or place. We see active history as a discipline, a process of contemplating history as it might have been within the limitations of the circumstances, with the key point being that above all else, leaders making decisions that they might very well have made differently, and the profoundly different results that then might have emerged. At such a moment, for both us the writers and for the readers, a whole new world opens up, a vast unexplored realm where all things might still be possible, a Confederate triumph in 1863, or an overwhelming Japanese victory in 1942. This process transforms history from a story of the past with all of its seemingly foregone conclusions into a dynamic story of a different and all too real future. Both of us have PhDs in history, and both of us chafe at the fundamental problem of studying and teaching the subject. The standard method is teaching the past as though it were unchangeable. This is passive history. Usually it is tedious and fails to excite students about history. Almost all school textbooks are filled with long, boring pages of rote-learned facts, racing to touch all the necessary political and social bases without any sense of the real drama behind the story. They drain all the excitement to be found in our common story. Gone is the great storytelling of classical history that personified the Iliad, Rome, and the creation of our republic. Yet traditional history is vital for 3 reasons. First, without knowledge of history, we have a collective amnesia about who we are as a people. Second, history creates the context within which events occur. To understand the relentless conflicts in the Middle East, which now so profoundly touch our lives, we must better learn the history of that region, which can then serve as a guide to the development of our foreign policy. Third, history is the constant enactment of men and women facing choices and considering options. A comparison of Hitler's Mein Kampf with Churchill's memoirs gives us a personal context to the greatest struggle in modern history, and shows us as well just how frightful an active history with Hitler triumphant might have been. Active history is a way of breathing life back into the adventure, to reopen the book on page 1 and examine how, in the reality of that moment, all things were indeed still possible. Active history teaches students to question every decision and ask, what if? The questions make history come alive. Active history captures our imagination, sharpens critical thinking skills, and provides perspective. For over 60 years, we as Americans have learned our history of World War II from our own perspective. That the Japanese launched a dastardly attack, as Roosevelt put it, without warning, and across the next 4 years we waged a terrible, bitter war that would not end until the detonation of 2 atomic weapons at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And yet we as historians realize that so little is known or examined about exactly how and why Pearl Harbor happened, and how profoundly different it might have been if but one
Sample complete. Ready to continue?